Now on to our top story, a big new twist in Boeing's battery problems with the Dreamliner and the grounding of all of the 787s. After the issue was downplayed at the outset, saying it was just growing pains that every new aircraft experiences, now it has come out that Boeing had knowledge of major battery problems even before the incidents of smoke and fire on the planes. Our aviation expert, Peter Goelz, a former NTSB managing director, has been following this story with us since the start, and he's back now with this latest development. Peter, I want you to put your NTSB hat back on for a second here. And if you find out that they knew that they had 10 batteries that had problems, the Japanese airline that told them they had to replace 10 batteries. Did they do something wrong by not disclosing it or by not addressing the problem right there?
Well, here's the issue. It's not just 10 batteries. That's 10 batteries from one of the airlines. The second airline using the Japanese airline, using the Dreamliner, also had problems. They were not required to turn these events over to the regulator in Japan or in the U.S. You know, we have pages of regulations. This was seen as kind of a minor or normal maintenance issue. The real question is, both airliners reported their problems to Boeing. They said, we've had to change out, in one case, 10 batteries. Right. In another case, we don't know how many. The question is whether Boeing was connecting the dots, whether they saw that there was a problem brewing with these batteries and what they did about it.
But how could they not? How could they not at this point? I mean, that does sound like an awful lot of batteries. It sounds like it's the same problem over and over again. We're also hearing that there was a study back in 2010. The FAA found that this kind of lithium-ion chemistry that Boeing was using, this lithium cobalt, was more flammable than several possible types. So there was a study out that said that this could be a problem, and then all of a sudden you see evidence of it. Don't you think, I mean, isn't it logical to believe at that point they should have said we have a problem?
Well, as an investigator, you go back and look at every event and you see whether there's any similarities. We're not sure yet. We know that there were 6 of them apparently were overcharges. There were some undercharges. The question is whether there are any similarities either in the events or from the production side. You know, one interesting thing that came out this week is that the battery itself has not been given a clean bill of health. You know, on Friday it was reported incorrectly that the Japanese had said, nah, it looks good. That's not the case yet. They're still looking very carefully at the battery itself and its manufacturing processes.
So right now, Boeing is saying, you know, they had their earnings call today. They said they have $13 billion in cash on hand. They had a record quarter. They say their jet cancellations and deferrals remain above the historical average, that their production is continuing at the same rate. These are all quotes from the CEO this morning. It sounds like it's not having an impact yet. How much longer do you think they stay grounded without a resolution to this problem before it starts really having an impact?
Well, it was a pretty optimistic call today. But, you know, the one thing that is very true about aviation is that safety abhors a vacuum. And if there is no explanation and there is no clear path how to make these planes safer and prevent this from happening again, it will start to have an impact, and probably within the next 30 to 60 days.
You know, it's just hard to look at this mounting evidence. I mean, this most recent report that we were talking about, Al Nippon Airlines, saying 10 cases of replacing the batteries. In 5, the main batteries showed an unexpectedly low charge. This is the exact same thing that happened in the ones that caused the problems and really led to this grounding. There is such an overwhelming slate of evidence that these batteries weren't working. It seems like they resisted maybe changing it out and changing the design because it would have been so expensive at that point. Isn't that a logical conclusion?
Well, the investigators from the NTSB are going to look at all of the internal communications, all of the work that was being done on these incidents, and see exactly what they were thinking, and they'll make a judgment on whether they should have moved it up the chain and addressed this sooner rather than waiting for this almost catastrophic event.
Yeah, Peter, you're absolutely right. This is another case where we're going to eventually see the email trail, and that's going to tell us a lot. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you staying on this for us.